Okay, how's everyone doing?
Fantastic. And
Good to hear. Okay, so what we are doing today is going through how to access the bill of materials for all of our PCBs or printed circuit boards. As our main program, as we've been using over the semester, we're using Eagle, and this makes a little bit more sense on my screen. Most of us are screen sharing, so if you go between the various uh, icons on Google Hangouts for people talking, you should be able to see like David's screen or my screen. And I'm showing what we're trying to get to on my screen, which is Eagle, and we're trying to get to our project files. But first, we have to get those downloaded. And so what we have been using for projects is GitHub or Git for our version control. Yeah, just message me and I'll get you those tools. But you will need that to view the stuff
okay.
and to download the content. Anyway, assuming that you have Eagle and you've got the files downloaded, they'll show up here in Eagle under projects, PCB schematics. The ESF stuff is just the stuff that we did for the ESF documentation, but our actual work that we've been doing is under PCB schematics. To generate a bomb, and it's a little bit more interesting than the accumulator board, so I'll go into the BSPD. We can open either the schematic or the and Zach, don't hesitate to interrupt me. I'll give you any information you need. I just wanted to get this done. So anyway, from either the board or the so I've got the board here and the schematic here. We should be able to generate the bomb in either way by going to the ULP, which is this sixth or seventh, yeah, like ninth button here on the side, and it stands for User Language Programs. Eagle kept open like a user language to create little programs like this, and that's actually, oh, and it looks like it has to be done in the schematic, so I was wrong. The whole list of programs is available, but some can only be executed in the schematic and some can only be executed in the board. So here, if we click it while we're in the schematic, it'll open up this Eagle bill of material. And for all of the boards, and the reason that I wanted to get other people in on this is just because it's going to take some time and we're going to have to clear them out. But so here it shows literally every part, which we don't really want for ordering things. You know, all of these are basically the same capacitor. And it shows that some values have not been added, so we'll want to address that and make sure that those get addressed. And if you're assigned to a bomb and there's not a value like that, just hammer me and just say, hey, pass, what is this value, and I'll tell it to you, or make sure it gets updated and flashed up to the master copy right away. We won't be, as far as the branching, whatever, given the time left, we won't be dealing with as much of that. But anyway, to get the list, like what would be a bomb that you would use to physically purchase materials, you'll just change the list type here to values, and then that will group them by quantity. And then we pick an output format. If we want to get this ultimately into Excel, we want to put it into a CSV format, which is a comma separated value sheet. And let's see, it actually, this is the text. Comma separated value is actually just a text file which looks like this, but it should, if we click save and we have it go out to, we could have it go to the folder that it's actually in, and this would add it into the local Eagle file, which it depends on where we want to have it. We probably want to have it hosted off of the Google Drive, if that's more convenient for us. But I'll just say that we're saving it here in the local folder. So if I go into BSPD under schematics, it should, and some of my windows go up to the other side, but it should show up right here. And then if we double click, that should open up in Microsoft Excel. And from there, we've got all of the tabulated information that we want. We'll want to add in extra information to verify that, and let's see how shitty that looks. Possible data loss. Is this even usable? Let's see, quantity value. So all of the headers got lost, but oh, there might be a formatting issue in terms of yeah, because the quantity are showing up there. Let's see if another editor will work with a CSV. Let's go into Google Drive. It could just be this individual program, and I do have another program called Copper, but that's only on Mac OS, and so that won't be available to everybody else, and so that'll kind of bottleneck this, and then all of this is a waste of time if we can't get this up and running in Eagle to where we can be productive with it. But anyway, if we go into electronics and then into designs, component designs, PCB components, board components, and then BSPD. It's probably a good place to put it, if anything. The file that we just downloaded is under here. This should be the same raw text file. You can see if Google Drive has a better interpreter for it, and then see if we can get that into a Google. The ultimate goal is to get everything into a Google Sheet. We're going to make a different worksheet for all of the different devices, and then link the parts that are the same on a master sheet for a master BOM, if you will. Okay, let's see. Open with Google Sheets, which it knew the file association there. Let's see how well this one did. It's probably the same as the Excel, so yeah, it's the exact same information. And let's see if Eagle does anything different. So we can see, let's see if this list attributes thing changes it all. And does that change the actual way the source code looks to... The underlying issue could be that there's not an equal number of columns being generated per thing, but there's tons that just have this empty space in here. So what I can do then, if this absolutely... Let's see what the HTML is going to look like then. And this is the HTML file. Let's save it. Let's save this one as well. This is what the HTML file is. Yeah, so we might be able to use this to generate these part numbers, but then we'd have to copy them manually in. So let's see. Huh?
You can't select that text.
I can, but it's let's see. Okay. If I copy by thing here, I can do them like this, and so that's at least a little bit better. And we could distribute these, you know, so do them line by line. And the problem is, in terms of what we are ultimately trying to do, is we're trying to create a spreadsheet, something that would go in the overall parts list from this information. And then the thing is, we need to be able to add in additional information as far as where to find it per vendor, and so we can do it per sheet. And then the way I was thinking about it was just, one second, create a new, yeah, closed the, and let's see what the text file looked like.
The HTML might have it in a div, in
a div, just for it. Well,
it might have the it might have the columns in like a.
Let's check it out.
Column thing.
Let's check it out.
Might be formatted better.
And let's see. It is, as far as each item, it just creates it here to here, and so you know, I think it just generates them in one. Although this would, yeah, literally just creates there's a new line which it does with TR, and then it does each item with TD. I'm guessing that's like tab to limit or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's literally just this. There's not what I was hoping to get was a good way to well, although let's see if this copies and pastes well into the other thing. It might. It very well might, and this would be better than absolute nothing. And yeah, there we go. Okay, good call from Sunny to check that out. Even though it didn't separate it out, it separates it out just enough to copy paste, which is. But you'd think that they would get that right with the comma separated value sheet, right? Like, anyway, these are. See, that's kind of interesting. Like this one here was a duplicate part, or 1, 2, and 3. So, if for whatever reason it's a different part, like if we kept one, actually, oh, no, let's see. The interesting thing here that I need to make sure. So as far as these OR gates, this is a quad gate, and so it has 4 things on it, and that might be a weird fit between that. Although it did capture this correctly for these multi parts, it might not do it correctly. Looks like it did it correctly here. This is a quad op amp, and it has all 3 on one line. But yeah, we'll just need to make sure with quad parts that this might have to, like if we have only 4, but then again we can see if there are 4 different devices physically, if there are 2 different OR chips. So the issue here, and this is actually worth having everybody on here, is that for quad parts, let me just show you how they work really quick. EAGLE has what are called different add levels, which are, when you're designing, so a chip will come like this where it has 4 different NAND gates on it, but from a design perspective, I don't want to add all 4, I just want to add one thing at a time, and then, if I don't use the other gates, then they just don't get connected. And anyway, for my bill of materials, there are 2 gates that I just added, but there's only the 1 part here. So I want to see, in this case, it said that when we were looking at, let's see, it said that there were 3, it's a 4 gate, it's a quad 2 input OR gate, but it says we have, that OR gate's 2, and actually it counts these as 3, so if we were ordering this and we put this into the BOM, these would come across as 3 different devices that we would order if we just use a straight quantity. So it might be the internal logic of EAGLE for generating this, because for this is correct. We do want 24 10K resistors, and it lists out the resistors right here, quite a bit of them. But and then we can see if there are any other. Yeah, here's 2 470 resistors. So it seems like it works for conventional parts, but for these linked ones, we might have to, and this is what we'd have to do manually. So this is why it's gonna have to be a group effort in terms of. And let's see what these OC Newark things are. So they do contain like some package, and then these dual inline resistors. But we're gonna have to, from this information, go and research the actual part number. So these are just functional parts basically. And so, for example, what I want to do from here is take device 15R-SOMC and just look it up. And I might have to go to DigiKey or something like that. I might have already put them elsewhere. So this is an SOMC 16 resistor network, and actually this might be the manufacturer's package number right here. So I might be able to take that, and we can, here it is. Let's see if that can be added in at the EAGLE level. So this is, or what this part is there are these things right here. And let's see if I'm just trying to find where in EAGLE, to move something, you have to find its handle. And so I can move anything on here, but I need to know where to access. If I right click, it's probably buried. Yep, there it is. So it's buried right here, and I can't see it. So if I right click there or here or anywhere else on the drawing, but if I do in the dead center, and because it's red, I can't see it. But it's usually a red crosshair. And anyway, you can add in attributes such as MPN for manufacturer product number. Let's see if we can add in aspects for these attributes for these. Let's see, attribute. Then so can we edit those? Anyway, that you might be able to do it for value, but that's going to be a different attribute than this. It'd be nicest if we can edit this on the data, or as we source them and find them, that we can just have them saved in here so that they're definitely here in the schematic right where they're being used. And then if you just click this auto bomb, it'll generate that HTML file. You then copy and paste that into here, and then what we're ultimately trying to do here is generate, like, where do I buy this in terms of sales. So here, this might not be the cheapest for it. This unit, this one ship is $368 on this one place, so we can go to Octopart. So whenever we're filling out these actual part lists, we can find them. And actually, so there's actually no stock here for this one, and it might not be this particular one. So if we enter in a product number that's this long, then it's literally just going to match this. And I might have, in terms of how these parts get into EAGLE, I might have found something very similar to this in order to get it to work here that has literally the same PCV footprint as another working part, but the manufacturer part number might have been different. So we just have to find something that's going to, let's see, authorized distributors, more resistor arrays. Let's see, SOMC16 resistor array. And this one's an actual chip that looks a lot like this, which that should have come up on this one. So as far as how not to have this be entirely arbitrary, they actually do have this one in stock. No, they do not. It's 0, and the lead time is 28 days, which is not at all doable. But there should be tons of these types of thick film resistor networks, dual inline body. And so if you run into a problem like this, then just ask me, and I'll get this kind of thing sorted out with you. But the way that you would generally go about doing it is, here's one. Yeah, this one is 47 kilo ohm. The main thing that we're looking to do here is do a voltage divider, so the exact value isn't critically important. A voltage divider is relative, but this one should get the job done versus what we had here, which was this. So another thing, when you get the data sheet, this is going to be the data sheet for the entire series, so this is actually another one in the same series, because the data sheet is literally, I think, the same between these, but yeah, a lot of it just comes down to just finding these individual parts and then saying, yep, that fits the goal. So as far as what I see in EAGLE when I'm downloading this, I might see like this level of it, and there are multiple things that can satisfy that. So this is 4 resistors on an array, and that's all the information that I have from that. And so I might take that product number, copy it, and then go and see if that's even a part. And I did that for most of the parts, but I just didn't write them down given the amount of work I was doing at the time. Just need to find something that was sold at the time, and yeah, I should have done a better job for writing them down, but we'll have to do it anyway. But anyway, after I get that, let's say I want to settle on, I think I actually did find one. No, that's not it. That's a connector that's entirely unrelated. But let's see. SOMC resistor array. And
I'm gonna start heading back to Iowa City. So I'm gonna leave. I'll watch the rest of this later, though.
Sounds good. And
See you, Ryan.
See ya.
yep. And actually, here's a whole range of them. And the important thing, though, that they're not listing. So this is DigiKey will often have data sheets for their. It's basically like a catalog sheet where it's like, oh, this is this kind of part, and it's got, you know, all of this, but it doesn't. I think we want bus, although it shouldn't really matter. The difference here is the way it's actually wired. Sorry, I'm not going to get into these two details, but this would be one maybe where we might run into this kind of issue, not this was one of the more exotic parts. Almost everything's going to be pretty vanilla, off the shelf. And let's actually just do one that's a little bit easier, really quick, so I can show how it should be done. But the question here was how many OR gates were we actually using. I guess you just can physically look on the thing, on the board. And you can also actually tell, actually, those actually should be 3 different. So yeah, we're actually using a lot more than that. I got confused. So, yep. So those are shown, those different numbers are shown by OR1C, OR1D, OR2A. We're just using a shitload of logic gates, so it's way more than that. And there are 3 different chips. One thing that we can do at the last minute, we can delete the, so a big problem that you have in EAGLE is if you just copy and paste the chips. So if I add, let's see, if I go OR, let's see, it'd be, this is the CMOS series, CMOS, and almost there, US. Okay, so let's say we add an OR gate. That's something that we already have. Well, I don't think we have any NOR gates in there. Let's add an OR gate, which is number down here. Quad 2 input OR. It's number 32. So it's 74 blank 32. And so here, when I added it, it's number 4C because we already are partially into constructing OR gates using the 4th chip, and so it knows to add. But if I delete, if I copy and paste, it'll always create a new one, and then this is just the last 2 on some chip. So it just creates a new chip that has the last one, C and D. So anyway, in terms of how some of these things got created, if they got made through copy paste, then some of the numberings might not be terribly efficient. But I think that that all of those have been done, at least for this one. But it might be another issue. So you can see they start at 1A, 1B, and they should go to C, D, and then it goes A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and then they just run out at the time of 4. So we actually have 4 different chips. And the reason that there's probably a good reason why so this one separated them interestingly into they look to be the exact same, so these can be combined ultimately if we wanted to. I can say OR1 and then just delete this row, and the reason for that is as far as how these devices got added on, and so now this is 4 chips at the least, but then we need to find the actual device that goes here, so we can just type in 74 LS32D. The big issue for product numbers is oftentimes the manufacturer number goes in front, and so oftentimes you'll just have to stick with DigiKey, and it might be kind of hard sometimes, but here we go. So now the actual product number is SN74LS32D for this particular one, and they might have the ALS D, and these just refer to different logic things. The D means surface mount, SMD, at the very end, and here they do have the ALS, which we might actually want instead. It's like advanced low power Schottky. It's like the newer version of the chip, but if you're doing sourcing for parts, generally whatever is the most affordable, given that oh, and one last thing as far as actually buying these, you'll notice that these ones are quite a bit cheaper, but they have a minimum quantity of 2,500, and that's because they use what are called tape and reel. So I bring this up so when you're sourcing parts for PCBs, this is the most common way. They have a tape and reel machine that you buy them in bulk, and they just feed into here, and then this will automatically place them on the board for you and solder them for you. But for us, that's way too expensive. And there's like a vacuum thing that'll pick up the chip, place it on, solder it, good to go. But for us, there's 2 kinds of things we can use. We can use DigiReel, which means that it works in a tape machine, but that it's cut. And then there's cut tape, which won't work in a which won't work in the reel. But either, you can generally tell from the minimum order if it's in stock and the minimum order is satisfied, it's good to go. And so we can use pretty much this one or this one. However, they don't have a unit price here, so this one is 86 cents. So we might want to look into for oh, and then you can type in also. You want to have it in stock, so it only shows you the in stock, and you want to show prices at a minimum quantity of 1, generally speaking, or however many we're getting. And the prices actually will change based on the quantity. So, for example, if I type in, if we end up buying 100, you'll probably get a bit cheaper. So almost half the price. So you do want to try to pack everything into a single order as much as is possible. But here, for example, if I was getting these, they would be 57 cents, so it'd be $57 for all of these if I was to get 100 of them, which we're not getting anywhere near that amount. But I might want to look, so the thing that maybe if we can do some market research on, all I need is, in Eagle, it says 74 star 32, and then it has all of these different logic families, so I just went with this one here at the top. These refer to different numbers or versions of the chip that have different features. We kind of want to go with whatever minimizes price, so you can look at, and I think that they have stars. So this is what's called globbing, which is where you have like a wildcard character that can mean nothing or anything. So if I type in star 74 star 32D, that will give me SMD components that, well, it'll also give me other stuff. So it'll literally match nothing. So it'll give me things that, well, oh, it looks like it doesn't support globbing. Let's see if Mouser does.
I'm pretty sure you could do
Globbing
wildcards
in DigiKey.
Yeah, I don't know if they do. I don't know if they support 2, but I think you could do 1.
Oh, sure. Okay, so let's see. So 74 star 32D. And let's see what came up. Interestingly, they're only showing those, and in the text entry, it does show the star, meaning that it took that in as the thing. Although, if that were the case, why is it showing star for this? So let's see, 74 32. Are we missing? Let's see, 74, because LS should expand. So LS comes up with something. Yeah, it comes up with exactly what we want. But does the star is a different chip entirely? It's a audio processor, which is fucking bizarre. Let's see if Octopart works with it.
Sorry.
Which we're gonna have to look him up on Octopart anyway to get a vendor by vendor comparison. And yeah, it looks like it works on Octopart. And we generally want to go with avoid the C. So these are CMOS. They're meant to replace one by one. So even if you got CMOS, it's not the absolute end of the world. It should 100% work. And then these are things that are probably too hard to know. But let's see. Can we sort by price? These are all. I want to sort by price for each of these by themselves. So let's see. Well, prices. And is it high to low? I mean, fuck. It's because it's got 128 and then it goes down from there. So it looks like it's.
It's by relevance. You can.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. Thanks. Good eye, Sonny. And the absolute lowest chip price, and it looks like it's its max chip price. So we might be able to sort. Can we set pricings at? No, it doesn't look like they. On that, and that's another way to do it. Okay, these are CMOS that we could get for 9, although I'm not sure if they. Let's see if they let you buy at that price. At any practical, so it looks like it uses like the cheapest price that you could get, or here it's just using this price, so it's using the 10,000 unit price, which isn't even the cheapest. You can get it from Quest for 5.6, so I don't know why they're doing that. And does it have there are no CAD models available? That doesn't matter too much, but anyway, this is the effective. We would be paying close to anywhere between 1 and 100, more than likely, in those kind of unit prices. So you're just kind of looking to minimize the price. So here, I mean, generally speaking, CMOS can go wherever TTL is. The reason I was looking at TTL was for they're hard to kill, but they require a regulated voltage level.
So TTL is a better chip to get than CMOS.
I think for us, however, in almost all circumstances, CMOS is better. We've got an automotive case, but then again, it might not be too bad in that if we have pull down resistors on everything. I don't know if it's that bad. Let's see if this one has a price. This is one of the compatible ones that we're looking at. Although they don't have any prices on here. And the weird thing that you'll see is that there will be multiple vendors for the exact same chip model. So I think we looked at the LV is only low voltage. I believe they're different generations, and they call them different logic families is when they'll roll out these. And actually, we only got so we're still not getting the full. So if I typed in 74 ALS, it looks like it does some globbing to begin with, but
well, that's just to search up for general components, right?
Yeah, and
here multiple components.
There should be, I'm sure Mouser does, and I thought we did globbing before, but in here, their pricings are always, it seems that they always give them for 3.7, so it looks like they're always giving these prices out on the high end, and so, but here, Rochester Electronics has them for 40 cents at this unit, which, if we found enough products that they have, then we might want to consider them. Otherwise, it's just verifying that somebody has this. So what we're ultimately trying to do, like with everything else we've been doing, is just to get a URL so we can physically buy the thing. And so I could look at DigiKey here. The price, if we need to bring price down, again, just like the CMOS it appeared was cheaper. So
I would almost like to suggest that we try and stick with one supplier, whether it be like Mouser or DigiKey, because then you can cut down shipping costs and lead times with that, depending on the availability of the part.
Sure. Well, there might be some that some just don't have, and so you'll likely see between Newark, Mouser, and DigiKey, you could try and stick it to those three. Or at least DigiKey and Mouser, because some they might not have some of the stuff. Yeah. So anyway, but let's say that we went with DigiKey on this one. If I go to the buy now, I'm just not too crazy about the 80 cents per logic chip at that rate. But let's see, and let's just see what the default 74 32D is. Let's see, 74 S for Schottky diode 32D. And already this one is half the price. So if I'm just saying, like, if you were doing quite a bit like that, those differences can add up quite a bit.
Wait, what did you search?
So this actually might be hard for other people to do. So I looked up 74S. S is just Schottky diodes. So as far as what the difference is here, logic families, let's see.
Well, anyway, so you knew that of the logic of the circuits, you were able to get a cheaper part because you knew a similar chip would also work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So at least with me and Zach, because we don't have that extensive knowledge, I don't know if we'll be able to figure that out. I mean, how much would it save? 40 cents?
Well, 40, but it's 40 cents per chip, but then again, when you're ordering more, it's less of a savings. But we might have quite a few by the end of this, so when you start compiling, there might only be 4 on this one, but when you're 10 in, it might be 40 or 50 bucks, and that might just be one type of chip. And so the idea is if you can save 30 bucks here, 30 bucks there, 30 bucks on the other one, it might be better to do as a final decision before we buy them instead of having to do the research on each part as we're building up each PCB.
Yeah, so why don't, at least for now, why don't we start with just like getting whatever part is listed on EAGLE, and then we go back and kind of figure out is there a better one to get?
Yeah.
Even if we even have the time.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay, so this is good. I think this makes sense to me. Zach, Sonny, does this make sense to you guys?
Yeah, the boards probably share a lot of parts. So I'd say once, like maybe pass or Ryan, you give it a once over, and you just see like what parts each of the boards has that we would want to we would want to get an equivalent of. You know, once
Sure,
we have
yeah,
our final bomb
yeah,
done.
yeah, but I think that as far as workflow, the best plan of attack would be to just get on the board with working parts first, and then I think the price is probably going to be higher than what we'd like, and so we start saying, how can we save money? How can we save money? Can this part be exchanged for this? It might have to say, oh, can we go with the CMOS part in a pinch to make it feasible. If the CMOS part is like 20 cents and the other one's 80 cents, then obviously you want to save. That might be quite a bit of money.
How much money are all these going to cost anyway, like in grand total? How much do you guys
I'm
think?
guessing around 200 for everything.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
But again, it's kind of hard to. I haven't been.
Yeah, I get it. I just kind of wanted a range where it would be like 1,000 or like $100. That's fine. Okay, so why don't we like start a spreadsheet and somehow like organize it so that
Yeah, as far as
like,
yeah, as far as
and
what.
then we can, like pilot somehow and like get all the repeated chips to show, and then we know how many total chips we actually need.
Yeah, and I agree with that. There's not going to be a good way to do cross linkage across the two.
What about we just have one master bomb, and then each of the boards has their own
Spreadsheet.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree.
Once you find a new part, you go to the master and you see if that part is new to the master. And then if it's new, you add it. If it's not new, you just leave it.
Well, either which way, you would have to find it on the master and then update the linkage, the sum. So the master is going to have like how it's basically summing the quantities. So the quantity column is going to be one of the most important, along with the price. And ultimately, the vendor URLs are probably going to be under the master one. They're probably not going to go under the middle one. So actually, I've got it kind of started here. So what we can do is just have one master bomb, and then do one for the BSPD as just a separate spreadsheet. And so for the first one, it would basically just be copying and pasting. I'm not sure. Let's see. We also probably want to know the last time it was updated in terms of what EAGLE. So just so that, because that, as far as the way that it's being done, it's going to be easy for that to, or like the last time it's going to be easy for this to get out of whack anyway as well. Not the master. The master probably doesn't need updating, but if we need to make changes on the EAGLE part, like if we make a change here because we find something's fucked, then it's got to change, and how does that change get realized in the bomb? It's a bit of like a multi-document headache type problem.
Yeah.
So if we think of any way to get around that, the date, just putting a date up here in the corner was maybe the best way, because the date should also get updated on the EAGLE sheet for the last time it got updated on the schematic or whatever. So hopefully those two, if they mismatch when we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, then that will raise flags. But anyway, for example, this one would just be, I could probably copy and paste just this first one, and then we might want to say, let's see what columns we don't want to have that we can get rid of. We do want, and let's maybe add some columns.
Wait, wasn't that giving part numbers from like Newark? Is that what that said?
Huh?
Did one of the columns you just delete, did that give a part number from Newark? Or did I see something else?
So it says OC Farnell, which might be their catalog number for Farnell and Newark. It's supposed to be, yeah, they used to have it where you could put in the bomb and you were supposed to be able to get automatically buy the parts through Newark and Farnell, but
yeah,
I think that didn't work out that well, or it might have been something that was back in EAGLE and they still haven't gotten rid of it, or maybe they want to bring it back.
Okay.
But, I mean, for example, maybe we can just look and see this should be this exact resistor, and they might not sell it. So this was Newark. and maybe I've got to type in. So when you go to a part, there's like multiple numbers that are used. Like the manufacturer has a number to identify like what the part is just to begin with, but then DigiKey or did Newark get bought out? What the hell? Well, let's see, Newark Farnell. I'll be dipped. They got looks like they got bought out by Avnet. Shit. Anyway.
Okay, it's not important.
Yeah.
I just thought I saw it and that would kind of.
Yep. Anyway, let's see. If we go back to this document, we don't need the SPICE prefix, so this is pretty much all of the data from it. We can delete that. We would still want the manufacturer, the product number, a description of what it is, which parts. I mean, that is nice, just so you can cross them off. The package, I guess, is nice. Value, that's the actual value for ordering them, and some of them when you see a lot, so for resistors and capacitors, and there is one series of inductor, they'll just be R0805, and so there's quite a few options that we can look at for that, and this is a pretty common thing. I'll just be looking for R805, and then I'll need to know the resistance value on it. So if I go here, it's 470 ohm. There we go, 470 ohm, and let's see what comes up. We've got 470 ohm resistors from Mouser, and so what this is as far as finding parts, this is called parametric search, and oftentimes a search query might pull up a bunch of stuff and stuff I don't even remotely want, and so like I don't want this or that, so I filter it by like say PCB mount, and then that should. These are things which can be PC. Oh, I have to apply the filter. You'll see how many are remaining. Hopefully it doesn't. Oh, those are still PCB mount. I can. Well, no, it just updated. Still shows those, but it's getting. Looks like some of them are gone. Anyway, the package I want is generally 0805, which might be on here. I guess package code 0805, and then apply filter, and then you can do the greater than or less than, and there's only 155 now, and so that should definitely get rid of this one because this one's a through-hole resistor. Okay, and there we go. So basically any of these, and now you can basically sort for they will have some differences. Ideally we would like them to be as accurate as is possible, and so this, as far as what these amount, and just ask me if you have any questions over these. They need to be rated for certain things, but for most of these resistors it's not a problem. We've basically picked out all of the resistors that matter, but the different variables are how much heat it can dissipate, meaning it matters how much current's going through it. There's the percent, which is what percent accuracy is it to that many ohms, which is particularly important for things like voltage dividers and that kind of stuff where we want it to get it, or instrumentation. So generally we want as, this is the percent error, so when you see 0.1, this is pretty good. But for us, I mean, cost is probably the most important, so a lot of these 10-cent ones are probably just fine. And then that would serve as the order, so we would probably want to have, so as far as how I'd copy that information, I'd copy the URL. I want to make sure that there's not any extra stuff in there, so let's see what happens if I just take this base here. Does that still, no, that does not get me there, so I do need the full thing, just trying to cut down the length of the URL. And then I can go in here and say vendor URL, and then maybe let's see, the question is if we want to have multiple places listed, but I can also take that before I finally settle on that part. If we are going with 3, if we're only going with 1, then we can just stick with that, but I can take the part, which is why the manufacturer number is particularly important that I want, because then once I found it there, I can find it everywhere now, and I can go over, let's see, for this resistor in particular, and I'm gonna have to update it in BSPD, and as far as actually finishing things out in parts, we could just do it in this one central place, so we're not having to update it across these multiple.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe
we do need to have the quantities updated.
Maybe we just get started with getting all the
individual ones up, and then
all the individuals ones, and then getting a parts list of like the master BOM of everything we need, so we can just go by and we just have to pick for.
Are we gonna have to? Yeah, are we gonna have to? It might not be too bad as long as we split up the bombs and say like you've got these 4. Like we just take one after, like one block of time and say, hey, you've got these 4, I've got, or these 3, I've got these 3, you've got these 3, and then we can see
We
whether.
probably do it tomorrow, like after the meeting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Probably do this.
So I think I kind of agree with Sonny, where we just kind of do each individually for now, and then once all those are done, we can copy and paste it into the same spreadsheet, and then just like sort one of the columns by like whatever number it is, and then kind of combine the ones that need to be combined.
Yeah. Would it be
that way multiple people aren't looking for the same part?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Because then there's just wasting time. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So any of the part research or whatever should happen on the master sheet. And we could have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to compile it all first, and then.
Yeah, but the compilation's still going to take some work.
So the compilation will happen after we just get the individual boards done. Because first you have to have your individual boards.
And so.
Individual board.
And so, for example, I can start populating these things right here. So a cum. So anyway, for getting the individual boards, we're gonna have to go into EAGLE, and just to review that process, you go into the board. So you go into the control panel. You find. So if I wanted to do it here, and I don't think I have anything that I wanted to actually save from the BSPD, so I'm gonna say no. This asks me if I want to load the schematic as well, or the board. So let's minimize that one. Go here, and wait, this one. Yeah, this one actually hasn't been updated yet. So I will have to put the merge requests in, and I guess because there's been too much slowness in getting these things reviewed. So the actual real version of it, and just to show it to you real quick, if I close this one, I don't have to close all of EAGLE, but I will need to close any of the actual for this file. So if I check out this version of the board, and let's go exit, and now I'm back in here. Let's see, CD EAGLE, and then let's see what the status is. Okay, these things have been modified for the BSPD. Let's see, I want to get stash, keep, well, yeah, I'll stash them, and then no local changes. How the hell are they not local? Oh, they're untracked. Oh, if I go get checkout branch, and I check out the MMP, we want to look at the accumulator, and now so if things haven't been added, they won't be lost. There's not being tracked, so I can switch between stuff and it won't affect them. Anyway, now what I've done is I've checked out so we were trying to do a pull request for this, and it hasn't been done yet, but I'll just pull them all in, and we'll review everything on one go, I guess, in one thing. But anyway, now if I open up the accumulator, yeah, so none of those exist. They got turned into 2 boards right here, so we'll have to make those. But I'll get all of this sorted out, so when you guys pull from master, or when you update your copy all of these changes, you'll get them automatically. But anyway, let's see, if we open up this one, we can go into ULP again, go into BOM. You want it as a value, you want to list it as HTML, and then let's see if the list attributes. So list attributes lists all of these things down here, which we might want, because it's just everything but the basics. So we probably do want them, but we might have to cut out columns. So it's information we can cut out later easily. So if I save it in there, and then if I go, this is what I'm doing locally. I just have to go to where I saved it, which is here in this accumulator thing. That opens up an HTML file that I should be able to copy and paste the whole thing in, preserve the columns for, and then the thing I need to update here is we've got 2 accumulator boards. We've got a cum power and a cum signal, so let's change this to a cum power, which is the one that we were doing, and let's just copy. Well, let's see, that didn't save. So if I copy all and then go back into it, there we go. So you have to copy, you have to control all, highlight all of it in order to preserve the columns, and then you can copy and paste all of it into here, and now we've got the tabulated information that we need. I can delete this, and actually, if we just have this in here, it'll keep the date and time right in there. So it already does everything we need.
Cool. Okay, so just to get a solid plan going here,
And then
you
we need.
guys are gonna file everything into a master list first, and then we'll search for parts.
No, we're gonna create these individual spreadsheets from copying and pasting these bombs over, and
Okay.
it's literally just gonna be copy and paste, and then we have to start compiling them into this master sheet because there are a lot of parts that are shared between them. It doesn't make any sense
Right.
to do
Stuff,
to do research on them individually, as Sunny pointed out very wisely. However, we will. The question here is if there's going to want to be any organization, because it's going to be we could have common parts and then parts that are only on one board. So we could have different categories in the same way that we do the overall parts list. We could have, general parts like resistors, capacitors, things that are unique to, or that are on all boards basically in one category. And then that might make checking whether things are already on there to be easier, or just things that are unique to accumulator. But if things are on two boards or more, like some connectors are, I don't know.
I think categories would be good, like resistor, capacitor.
Do you think actually maybe the category should be for the kind of component it is? Like, is it a connector, and then we can put all the connectors together? Is it a logic gate? Put all the logic gates together, and that way, what I'm trying to what I'm trying to reduce here is just the amount of time, because this list is going to get really long really quick, and so we want to, because
I think by part type is the best way to go.
By part, or one more time.
Part like type, so like capacitors, resistors, like.
Passive, yeah. So, let me start. I can start the categories on here, and I should know those pretty well. But like passives, logic gates, connectors, or and that's like other stuff. And then another column will be syst boards that use it. Boards, and then we can just list them just to verify. But then the thing that we'll want to do is when we type in an equal sign, we'll want to link it to other boards. So we need to find a way to do a sum equals sum, and then reference the thing from another sheet. And then that's how we'll actually calculate the value in lifetime. The problem will be if the sheet gets updated, or if we update that sheet, then all the values are going to potentially... Oh, that actually might be an issue. So the problem that I'm seeing is if I started doing sum and then I reference this worksheet, like if I reference this sheet here in this column or whatever to sum, that's where this resistor is on this sheet. The problem is if I copy paste and all the columns get shifted down, then I'm going to have to change every affected column for the sum, right? So we could categorize, I guess we could categorize within each sheet as well, and then that would reduce the headache, I guess, that could happen there. But then again, the work would have to be basically redone every single time that the document sheet would get updated. You see.
Maybe it might just be easier to manually just add the number of parts you have to the actual master.
The problem is we don't know what has been added and what hasn't. Although we could add a flag and say that it's been updated, but we don't know when it's been updated.
Yeah, just like highlight
the part when you add it.
Huh?
Just highlight the part when you add it.
Yeah, like highlight the cell.
Highlight the master. Highlight the quantity.
Sure. And then we can keep up track of dates.
Whatever.
But then we have to do the math. We have to do the math manually, though, which is the pro.
And then put the date in when you edit it. Like green is done, red needs to be done, and then you put the date when it's green.
Yeah.
I don't think the math would be too. I think the math is the least of the worries. A little bit of math.
No, it's not that. It's just redoing. It's the time that it takes to compile a number over and over again. Like if I have to revisit it, then I've got to think and just like add 20 or whatever. Whereas if they're formatted in the same position all the time, and we could do it where there's just extra spaces so the way I'm thinking of it is that based on however many resistors, whatever the biggest part on the masters list, we could actually mirror the structure of the master list on all of the other ones. So, for example, if there are 20 different types of resistors that are used throughout, then the resistor category can be 20 long before the next one starts. It'll make the sheet a little bit sparser, but it'll be hard for it to... The downside is that if you want to update the parts list for an individual one through EAGLE like that, or generate the BOM again, I guess after a certain point, after it's already been compiled, we can just manually... Like, after it's been done the first time, we'll just have to manually update the sheet, I guess, based on what the BOM is, and we'll have to compare it manually, because it'll get too complex. But the solution I was thinking is, as we create a category here, for example, for, let's see, resistors, then it's going to, however many resistors are here, and then we've got the next category of, it'll probably be passives, actually. So passives, which are resistors, capacitors, inductors, and as we go down the line, would have however many of them, then start the next category. But then on the next sheet, even if it didn't have, like, have the categories start at the same at the same row numbers, so that there wouldn't be any mismatch. But I don't think that would really matter if we after we compile one of these. I think we should categorize. It's going to be hard to verify that a sheet has been done, so I think we should categorize both the master and all of the individuals, so that we can just copy. So it'll be easier. Like, say I categorize accum power with this view of parts, and I just go and look over and say what are the resistors, and then say, oh, that way I can see what resistors are already on the master and just update them accordingly. Or do you have a better proposal for it?
No.
Because otherwise it's going to be, the issue is just the crisscrossing. So if you've ever done this is just one sheet, and it's easier if you break it down into just by category. The master is always going to be the largest list of them, but because you generate another list of parts, it's hard to verify whether each of the individual parts are in this uncategorized list on the other one. So I think as long as, if I can compare apples to apples, I can just compare the resistors or the passives column on one to a passives column on the other one, and it won't be as bad as having to go down the whole list on one or the other. Although going down the list on any of the individual ones might not be too bad if they're not too long. It's going to be the master one that we have to categorize.
I think we just categorize the master, because categorizing the individual ones is going to take a long time. So maybe just that would be the job that you have to do when you, like,
okay, I agree.
Copy paste it, and then you go down the list and you cross-reference the master.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that makes sense. That'd be the individual work that you have to do, and the nice thing with that is that you would be able to copy and paste and update. However, if we update manually, then there's no record of like, the nice thing with, if you update it by formula, then you at least have a record of how that formula got there. Where, I mean, the parts probably aren't going to get updated extremely or anything like that, but yeah. say I need to add in on the shutdown circuit, for example, or no, on one of them, I think it might be the BSPD, I do need to add in more pull down resistors. There might be more resistors that need to get added in. So how, that's the main thing I want to be able to handle with the method. If we do a reference, I
would almost just do a new line. That's what I've been doing in the actual parts list, is then, like, overwrite it and then just, like, increase the number. It gets confusing. So I would seriously just put in, like, a new line and then just update the date.
Would you do a strikeout then?
No, I keep the old one still. So, like, the old one was, like, the old order, like, okay, yes, we've already ordered this, but we need more, so I make a new line, and it's the same info, but, you know, the order date is different.
Okay, what do you think about that, Sonny?
Yeah, that might, I think tomorrow, after the meeting, we first just try and worry about compiling the master, and we don't worry about the changes yet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
After we just get the list made,
that
make-
would-
Because it probably won't be too bad to begin with. and
yeah,
it's really-
making the changes isn't going to be
Yeah.
as bad as just making the list.
Okay. So the plan going forward is tomorrow after the meeting, we're gonna go over and try and make the master. So we'll try and split it between us 5 other boards and try and get some work done on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. I feel like I have an understanding of what we need to
All
do.
right. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, good work today. Were there any lingering questions for what needs to be done to go forward?
So let's see. So tomorrow we'll pretty much just kind of hammer this out. Why don't we set a goal to at least have the bomb done by Friday, if not Saturday,
Okay.
and then I can hammer out somehow get all the parts ordered on Monday. And I may be willing to do some fast shipping just so we get them here quickly. Depends how much it costs.
Okay. Yeah, and that might be more of a push to go with a single vendor.
Yeah. So yeah, let's try and keep it to Mauser, Newark, and DigiKey. I prefer DigiKey, I think, because I think they're just simpler to order through. In my experience, maybe Mauser might be better, but let's try and keep it concise with those and not find these like random Chinese suppliers that ship by cargo and months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it was always going to be that case, but we might want to try to the difference between DigiKey and Mouser. I think the changes, if we do make any changes in the parts, will probably be uniform because I think down between the main difference is going to be, I mean, we could have a preference for DigiKey whenever it's available, but the difference as far as branching out between them would just be when a part is not available, which you're going to see more with connectors than you are with these kind of vanilla, whether these are called jelly bean components in terms of, yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow after the meeting, let's plan to work on this master, and we'll just kind of hammer it out.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Good work.
Good stuff. Great work, guys.
See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Good
Yep.
work. We're building a race car.